why not come and join me on a wonderful train ride?
Simply Painting is underwritten by Winsor & Newton, manufacturers of fine art materials since 1832.
I'll be with you in a minute. Oh my goodness me. Wow, I just made it. Honestly. Well, welcome once again to Simply Painting. We're on the Grand Canyon Railway and we're on the way to the Grand Canyon. Now, what was all that kerfuffle about? Well, you're not going to believe this. I didn't pay for my newspaper. Honestly, I thought that was a bit over the top. Did you? Well, I'm on the train now, and the inspector tells me I'm safe. It's going to take 2¼ hours, and I'm going to be wrapped in luxury on this wonderful train. I'm going to show you some of it. Well, I've just come out here onto the back of the train to get a little breath of fresh air and enjoy the scenery, because we're getting quite near the station, I'm sad to say. Sandy, would you just have a look out there and see if the coast is clear? Good. Aha, we've arrived at the Grand Canyon station. Well, let's now go and find something to paint. Hello there. Well, let me explain first of all. Those cowboys that were chasing me onto the train, they weren't serious. That was part of a Wild West show. I thought it was very funny though, wasn't it? And I had to do it 3 times. I was out of breath, I can tell you. Anyway, let's talk about what materials we're going to need to paint our little picture. And this time we're going to paint a sunset over the Grand Canyon. And we need 4 watercolours, that's all. Alizarin crimson, lemon yellow, Payne's grey, and cobalt blue. We have our 3 brushes, of course, which are the large goat hair, the baby goat hair, and then we have the rigger. We have our tray, which is our palette. We have our cloths to dry our brushes on, and we have some water to mix with the paint. Then we have a sheet of paper which measures 14 by 10. It's 140-pound watercolour paper, longwise, and therefore we're painting a landscape. Without further ado, let's have some more fun. Horizon, sky, middle, and foreground. So let's get the pencil out and draw the horizon. And this time, it's about 2½ inches up from the bottom of the paper, so it's very low. So we've got a big sky this time. We want to show off the setting sun, don't we? Now here's something else we've got to do for you. This coin I have here on my finger, that is an Irish £1 coin. And it's ideal for painting suns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the paper like that, and I'm going to trace around it, just with a pencil, look, lightly like that. Now you did notice maybe there was a little tiny dot in the centre of the page. I cheated. That was 6 inches in and 4½ inches up from the bottom. So if you want to make a note of that, you can do. Right, having done that, we now have to protect it. So let's get our old masking fluid, the latex rubbery stuff. Let's take our brush, old brush if you have one. If you haven't, it doesn't matter, but make sure that the brush is wet and that you do this. You start off from the top, of course, because it's going to run down the paper a little bit. Now what I'm doing is I'm filling in the centre of the sun, if you like. So when we paint the sky, we won't affect it. I'm also going slightly outside the line, and do you know why that is? Because when I rub out this, I want to be able to rub out the line as well. I don't want the paint to be covering it. I think that should be fine. Now give it a swish. Every time you get to 20, you clean your brush. Then you'll never have damage to your brush. I should patent that idea. Now let's give it a dry. Okay, we've given that a good dry, really good dry, because do you know why? If this is wet and you put the brush on it, you got a problem. Now let's put out some of the colours to paint our sky. Starting off with lemon yellow. Next we put out some of the alizarin crimson, the red colour, lovely colour that. And then we put out some cobalt blue, all three of them across like that, look. Because we're going to mix that with that and that with that, so we put them together kind of thing. Then into the water, start off with the lemon yellow. Now this time we're not going to wet the paper. When we're painting a sky like this, we usually don't. But what we're going to do is going to go right across that sky. See that? Right across the sky and right across the sun with just lemon yellow. And then we're going to add in some of this, I was going to call it light red, alizarin crimson, of course it is, isn't it? You were about to say, wrong colour. There we go. Look, again, the paper, we're wetting the paper with the pigment itself, with the paint. Do you understand that? Right up to the very top. Because when we get up here, we're going to start working down the page then, as we normally do, don't we? Just put a little bit across like that. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? And we don't want to be having the sun reflecting too much over there, because, of course, it's there we have it. Now, let's get some of the cobalt blue. Mix that with some of the alizarin crimson, and we get the most gorgeous purple colour. Fantastic. Watch that, look. That's why I picked cobalt blue. It makes a better purple than the ultramarine blue. So remember that now. If you want purples, that's the, you see? We're having great fun here. Did you know that, you know, the cowboys in the days of old, you know when they say, make a circle, you know, with the wagons and that, everybody thought that this was because they were going to fend off Indians. And that was what we're told. We were all told that by Hollywood, weren't we? Well, you know something? That's not right. No. The reason they did that, believe it or not, was not to keep the Indians out, but to keep their cattle in, because they would roam off in the middle of the night and be eaten by wolves and things. There now. And we were always told, like, you see them all making a big circle and John Wayne would be leading them round in it, and then the Indians would come whoop, 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 whoop over the hill. Wrong. That wasn't the reason at all. They never did that when the Indians came. They just ran like mad, yeah. Well, there wasn't that many Indians anyway, I think. So they were all shot by John Wayne anyway, weren't they? Yes, none of them left. Okay. How about that? Oh, the Indians were nice people. Now, do you see what I've done? I've added in, I started off, I'll go through it very quickly with you. Start off with lemon yellow, just on the bottom of the page. Then I add in some alizarin crimson as I go up the page. And then when I get to the top, I add in some cobalt blue. And that gives me that lovely, winey, dark colour you see at the top. It's like a good wine, they say, yes. Now I'm just going to add in one more go, and then I'm going to dry it. Isn't that nice? And let me see now. We just lean back a little bit, as they say, lean back and have a look and see, make sure you got it, as everything is okay. Well, I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to put that brush in there, give this a dry, and when I'm drying it, there's a hotel that you might like to visit. Well, I'm standing here on the balcony of Hotel El Tovar, and it's right on the edge of the Grand Canyon, which goes 1 mile down from here. There's a great story about this place, which is built incidentally with Oregon pine, and it's absolutely magnificent. But the man whose name is used was a Spanish explorer. He came here and he never looked over the edge. But what he did was he wanted to get some water, so he asked one of his servants to go along and find some. He went to the edge, looked down, saw the Colorado River. It looked tiny, of course, from a mile high, came back and said, there's no water at all. It's only a little tiny stream. because he never realised that from a mile up it would look a bit smaller. Anyway, thought it was a funny story. We got to get back to our painting now, so let's do it. There you go, nice and dry. And look at that lovely sky. You can almost see the clouds billowing in. Oh, it's just lovely, isn't it? I love these colours. In fact, I have to admit to you that the favourite colours of all artists are purple, pinks and yet the primary colours. They're beautiful, yeah. Okay, let's get on next. I've got a visitor in the studio today. It's a fly, Freddy the Fly. Maybe Joe the Bird will catch him. No, he's all right. He's not doing any harm. So now, next, I'm going to now start filling in here. And what I mean by that is, because there was great brightness away off in the distance, this will be quite dark here. So why don't I take out some of my Payne's Grey. This is a good dark colour. You'll see what this will do. Now, I don't like just using black. I think it's an awful colour. So what I normally do is I mix some of my Payne's Grey with some of my alizarin crimson and a little bit of my blue, and I get a nice purple. You see, a dark purple colour, because I'm going to put in some trees and things. Now, I'm going to start over this side here. So let's do that. Look, with little dabblies and things. See that? These were little bushes that were at the side, the edge of the Grand Canyon. Could you imagine that place? Yeah. The depth of it. Now, look right across. Just be careful. Don't go too near your sun. I'm just filling in where I think the edge should be, so to speak. Now, that's about it. Then we start working our way down, if you like. I think I should probably go up a little. Now, you see with that colour, it's a nice winey kind of colour. It isn't a dreadful old black. Black is not a nice colour at all by itself. Never use it. No, 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 no. Tell you something. You know, why I used a coin there, because unfortunately we're not great at drawing circles and squares and things. And I'm going to bet you something now. If you get a piece of paper and you get a pencil and if you draw a square, just an ordinary square, freehand, just a square for me, right? I will bet you the chances are it'll be too tall. It certainly will not be a square. Most people draw them too tall. You might be the exception to the rule. Try it sometime. You'd be surprised. That's why when we're drawing houses and things, we make a cottage look like a 3-storied house because it's way up in the air. Now I'm mixing some more of this stuff here, coming on down on this side here. Look, get lovely colours in there. Don't be afraid to see the nice purples and blues are all. And this is all done with the corner of the large brush. And just take your time. Don't go berserk. If you try to fill this all in at high speed, what would happen is you'll just get straight line of just colour, and it would look awful. Now a little red there, yes. Because I'm going to darken this. This is only the first coat, as they say. We got bits of it that'll be lightened and bits of it will be darkened. You'll see as we go along. Now what I'm going to do now is give that another bit of a dry, because I don't want to be putting my hand in my own paint, as they say. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Just a quick dry now. Okie dokie. There we go. Now we're going to. We're working actually with what would be called technically warm colours. You know what they mean. Well, it makes a lot of common sense kind of. Reds are warm, and orange is the warmest colour of all. Would you believe that? And of course, what would cool colours be? The opposite, blue. Blue is, so we're making it purpley, you see, so we're taking the coldness out of it, if you like. So if you ever read an instruction manual and it says that somebody's working, or you should work in cool colours or warm colours, that's what it means. Nothing else. Orange is they say, the warmest colour of all. And that's why we try to create an orangey colour around here, because around the sun, naturally, it would be very warm, wouldn't it? Now, I've got to put some stuff up here. That's a little hair there. We don't worry about it. Now, That's surprising about that whole triangle, isn't it? Or the angle. The square that becomes a rectangle, yeah. There we go. You know, I was reading something the other day, and they talked about the wild man from Borneo. You ever hear of the wild man? There's no such thing. There are no wild men in Borneo. They're only in a circus. Did you know that? They come up with these crazy notions, you know, like I suppose somebody tells a story and then it goes round in a circle, and by the time it gets back to the first fill again, sure, it's a different tale altogether, isn't it? You can play a game, get 10 people around a circle, they tell the story, and it's repeated. Anyway, I'm just going to dabble this in here, give it a bit of a dry now, and then you're going to head off and maybe have a look at the Grand Canyon. Why don't you do that? I'm going to give this a good dry now. While I'm standing here, I'm walking along beside the rim of the Grand Canyon, and I don't like heights, so I'm not going to look down, but I'm going to tell you some facts about it. First of all, it is a mile deep. It is 10 miles wide. It's 277 miles long. It's 30 degrees warmer at the bottom than the top. It took 6 million years for it to be formed, which is not a long time really. And if you want to walk to the bottom and then back up again, it could take you 2 days. The last thing, and I thought was quite funny, was the first man ever to come down the Colorado River on a raft was a guy called Powell, and he only had one arm. Anyway, now let's get back to our painting now. There we go. Well, you're back. Well, let me tell you. First of all, do you know what I was asked to do there at the Grand Canyon? Get up on the back of a mule, I think it's a mule or an ass, right? Or a burro, and go down the Grand Canyon with me sitting on this thing's back. And the pathway, it's a mile high, remember, is about 2 meters wide, 6 feet wide. And this, they wanted me, I said, no thank you, I shall walk up. I am not going down there on that thing. Would you go down it? Certainly not, you'd take your life in your hands. So if the poor old thing got a bit of a fright at all, the two of you'd be over the side. Anyway, I didn't, but it is beautiful. It is, I mean, imagine being able to look down, almost vertically down a mile. We don't realise how high up it is. And 30 degrees difference, I can't understand that. You're roasting the thing. Anyway, let's get back to some of our painting here now. But it was lovely. It was a little misty the day we were there. It wasn't at its very best, let's say. This is always the way. You know, there's a syndrome called Murphy's Law. Did you ever hear what Murphy's Law is? Well, Murphy's Law very clearly states that if a thing can go wrong, it will. And I'm making up some more purple. And in our case, what happened was, it was just a little misty for the day that was in it, as we say. But it was still beautiful. It was still, and this sunset was just gorgeous. Now I'm going over some with slightly darker paint now. You can see what I'm at. Right across, I'm going to put a big tree in here in a minute. There was a big bush. This was an area where it was just up from the hotel, and it was kind of some trees and bushes and things, and I thought it was just magnificent when that sun started to set. Just wonderful. Now I'm right down to the bottom. Now let's get at this bit here. Anyway, if you ever get a chance, take that train ride as well. Terrific. And enjoy it. Now, I'm now mixing up some Payne's Grey, some of the red and some of the blue together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a couple of trees here. This will be a biggish kind of tree. I think I may have told you before, but I shall tell you again. Never make both sides of your picture look the same. What do I mean by that? If you have a bush on that side, don't do the very same thing on this side. Otherwise it looks like you've almost folded the page in two and just pressed one against the other and got a repeat of one side on the other. Now this, of course, is only, what I'm doing here, is only the skeleton of this thing. And it's done with the rigger brush, and you'll notice that as I lean heavily on it, it gets broader, and as I pick it up, it gets thinner. So it works very simply for me. That's why each brush has its own job to do. And I'm hoping that you're sitting there now saying, hey, I can do this. This is so simple. If that fella can do it, so can I. Please now, you have a go at this. Try it. It's very, very easy. Those of you who've tried to paint and have taken up the hobby will realise just how simple it really was once you know what you're doing. That's the only thing I have to say to you. So many of us really, we're told we can't paint, and that's what happens. Now, okay. Next, I am going to now add in some dark leaves to this tree. It's a bush. It was an old bush that was sort of sitting on one side there. Now, a mixture of large brush, red and blue, and some of the Payne's grey. And just, this is stippling, it's called. What I'm doing is I'm sticking the brush into the paint like that, look, in that kind of a fashion, downwards, and therefore the tip of the brush is now covered in 3 types of paint. I've got the red, I've got the blue, and I've got the Payne's grey. I mix the 3 of them together, stick the brush in like that, and that's where we call this my obedient brush, because if I was to do that with a nylon brush, of course, it would spring back together, where the goat hair stays where you put it. And that's how you can get these effects. See, every brush has its own use, yes. You get these little effects of leaves and things, and they look quite effective, don't they? Yeah. And it's dead easy. Although I have to tell you that the first leaf you put on that's the difficult one, because you're afraid of ruining the nice, clean paper. See, that bit there now would be just a little bit tricky, but it isn't. Once you do it, it's fine. Now, I'm going to leave that just for a second, because I want to put some more dark there, because that was a darker side. There's more leaves, if you like, on the right than there was. You don't want the branches showing through either. I'm quite happy with this. It's coming along nicely, isn't it? Still got the old sun to get at now, so I'm going to give that a dry, and then we're going to get at the sun itself. That's fine now. I'm getting happy with this thing. Now let's take off this. Make sure your finger is clean. Don't have any paint on it, or you'll rub the paint. Now you see what's happened? Look at that, I've got a nice white centre. Isn't that nice? And then I can just touch it up just with the old eraser there, just with it's on the back of this pencil. Give it a little wish away like that. Now you'll notice that it looks to be a bit silly looking, just empty and white. Wait till you see what I'm going to do now. I am going to get some of the red, I have to put out a little bit. Red, this is the alizarin crimson. I need to make up that colour there almost. And you see what I'm going to do then. Now you want to be careful that you get the same colour that's there, the pinky kind of colour. See it? Now where's me blue? Take your time with this. It takes 99% of your time to mix the paint, and it only takes 1% to put it on. So you can make a mistake very quickly. And I don't like that very much. I think we should be okay with this now. Now, I'm going to try this up my little piece of paper here and see how I'm going. That's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, okay. Now watch. Just across. Just a couple of places like that. I'm just going to, just to give the impression that it's kind of, now down here will have to be the same. And I need a little bit of blue, because that's a more purpley colour I need from down here, isn't it? And then I'll just test this again. Okay. Test it again. I want to get this right. And just across there, I'm going to just run a little bit. See that? And that's my kind of sun is in behind the clouds a little bit. Okay, let's now get some of the lemon yellow, because where the clouds and the sun hit, see that? I just want to put a few little dibbles there, just to show bits of light hitting. Okay. Then we get the old brush and put in Joe the Bird. Up there. And then we get some whitewash paint. Now you'll see why I say whitewash paint in a minute, because if we don't, you won't see the signing. And just sign it. Then get the old mount, put it on there to see what it looks like. This is a piece of cardboard which we get in any art store, and then we say that's all for now. If you'd like more information about this program or all the other programs in this series, why not visit my website at simplypainting.com. Goodbye for now.
Simply Painting is underwritten by Winsor & Newton, manufacturers of fine art materials since 1832.